There's a shortage of silver. We're running out of this wonderful precious metal to make all of our coins and bullion. I don't think that's actually true. There are a lot of supply chain issues at the moment, and it's important not to just jump on the bandwagon of a headline statement like that. So let's talk today about this supposed shortage of silver, why it's important for our purchasing of precious metals, and what impact it might have in the future. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble, which this week is going to be all about the supposed silver shortage. There was a big announcement from the US Mint a couple of weeks ago that there was a global silver shortage, and that was why they were having to scale back some of their production. They then did put a clarification out a couple of days later to say that it was more that they couldn't get the blanks from their suppliers than a global silver shortage, because there was this huge uproar from various communities around the world jumping on bandwagons that silver is running out. Oh my God, we need to buy as much as possible right now because this stuff is running out and we're going to go to the moon with the prices. Now, I am very, very much set in the real world, and I am not a subscriber to the idea that we are running out of silver anytime soon. Silver is not a rare metal, it is just rarer than other metals. And in today's video, I want to examine some of the supply chain issues. And that's a really important phrase, supply chain, that we are experiencing right now in this world, this very strange new world of modus operandi that we need to go through to just live at the moment. And that is what is fueling a lot of the issues around premiums, about supply, about abilities for places like the US Mint and the Royal Mint and various other mints around the world to produce their products. So there's so many different opinions, views and thoughts on this. I'm not going to be able to cover them all by any stretch. I'm just here sharing my thoughts and opinions. It's not financial advice, and I'd like to know yours down in the comments. That's one of the reasons why I make these style of videos. And if you are enjoying the videos, you go, a quick reminder to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you're not. So the big supply chain issue, that's the thing that rings most true to me. We are in this unprecedented world, and there are supply chains in many different sectors which have been interrupted. It's not just precious metals, it's not just silver, it's not just bullion and coin production which have been affected. And one of the other big things that people talk about is lumber and inflation and how everything is going up in price. Food, everything is increasing in price. And a lot of people put that down to inflation and the devaluation of pounds, pennies, pence, dollars. And actually, when you examine, I think, a little bit more closely, yes, there is certainly a factor at play about the value of currencies and the amount of debt that is being produced, but also have a consideration for supply chain. It's very difficult to be a business at the moment. There are so many hoops and hurdles that one has to fly through just to bring products to market, and it's affecting every sector, not just the precious metal sector. So when you saw the big announcement from the US Mint to say there's a global shortage of silver, that was a poor choice of words. And there were a lot of people who just jumped immediately on a bandwagon to go, well, this is it. It's time to stack up and get as much as possible because it's running out. Ultimately, though, it turns out that that announcement was fueled because of the supply chain issues for getting blanks. And of course, that is what has really fueled a lot of the demand right now for other products. And you see a lot of people just buying generic silver from these refineries. Of course they would. If a refinery is given the option to supply to the US Mint or to the Royal Mint at spot plus, say, 1% or whatever it is, but they can sell their own rounds at $3 or $4 over spot, of course they're going to do the latter and earn as much cash as they possibly can. So that is most certainly a factor at play. And you know, the idea that there is a physical shortage of silver out there is, in my opinion, not a viable one at the moment. Now, silver is a finite resource. I will grant you that. And there is no way that I'm going to argue that one day in our history, in our future, we will run out of silver as a civilization. But the idea that there is a very limited amount of it currently out there that we can't get our hands on is, in my opinion, not true. You look at the mining figures year on year, and a lot of people use those mining figures to argue that there is a decline. But when you think about it, over this last decade, since the big run-up in silver prices, there have been absolute giant lows in silver. And it's nowhere near incentivized for mining companies to go and dig out all of the silver from the ground and sell it at $12 an ounce, which was the lowest prices. So a lot of the big mining companies out there will have scaled back their mining capabilities and their refining capabilities. And they may well have even mined it out the ground and just put it in warehouses and stockpiled it for better prices down the way. And that's exactly the same thing that happens with oil, for example. Refineries and producers of oil will just simply sit on it and wait, and they'll continue their R&D and they'll continue their their sort of supply chain for the future, because it takes a long time to ramp up production. That's another thing that a lot of people say, that silver mining, it's in decline right now, but it takes like 8, 9, 10 years to develop a fully functional working mine. Well, no, that's not how I view things, because ultimately, and this is something that a lot of people forget, silver is a byproduct of a great deal of other types of metal that are mined, copper being one of the biggest, tin is another, even lead. It is something that a lot of people forget, that silver is often a byproduct of other mining activity. Now, I did a little bit of a thought experiment, and I contacted a number of different dealers out there in this world to see if silver really was in short supply and how easy it would be to potentially get hold of a pretty large quantity. And I was inquiring about 100 kilos. 100 kilos is an awful lot of silver, but in the grand scheme of things, it's peanuts. It's tiny amounts of silver compared with what the US Mint would produce in a given year, or how many ounces come out the ground. Of course, it's billion ounces come out the ground on average every year. So 100 kilos is a tiny amount. But I'm just a guy. I'm just one random chap on YouTube that makes some poured silver, and I was just curious how difficult it might be to get hold of 100 kilos. The overwhelming answer and reply from all of these different dealers and suppliers was that it was really very easy to get hold of 100 kilos of silver. The longest wait time that I was quoted was about 3 weeks, until it was ready. Of course, then there's the dispatch time as well, which maybe could take another week or so. So pretty much a month to get hold of 100 kilos of silver. We're talking about an awful lot of material there, and it's something that a lot of people think is really hard to come by, but I think it's actually not as bad as you think. And in fact, one of the different dealers that I was speaking to, they were saying that one of their suppliers is a mining company that also does their own refining, but they don't mine silver particularly. They have it as a byproduct, and they produce 40 tons of the stuff every year. And that's just a byproduct. That's just a little Brucey bonus extra that is sat on the side for them. They don't focus on that. It's about the other materials that they mine. So, silver being a byproduct there is plenty of it out there. There's also a misconception that silver is exceptionally rare in this world, and that is not the case. Silver is rarer than other metals, but it is not rare in its own right. And there have been, as you all know, plenty of different countries and civilizations around the world throughout history that have been easily able to find it, mine it, refine it, and produce coins for their currency. So it is most certainly something that is relatively common in nature. Now, of course, other metals are a little bit less common, like gold, but there is actually still a fair amount of gold and silver out there. All you've got to do is just look at the production numbers for all of these metals every year, and you really do understand that there are a lot of different resources out there still in this world. Now, one of the big arguments is that eventually silver will run out and it will become this very valuable commodity because of its unique properties. One of the things I always see is people talking about how good silver is as an industrial metal, and I'm not going to argue that. It is fantastic, and that is what I think is going to fuel silver's growth over this next decade and into the future as well. It's very heavily used within solar energy and renewable energy technologies, and a whole host of others as well. It's got some absolutely incredible industrial uses and stuff that we probably don't even know about yet that will also come to the fore. That is what is going to fuel, I think, silver's growth over time, not this irrational idea that there is a significant amount of silver shortage because of production numbers. Now, as well, we need to remember it's the same premise with things like oil. There is still an awful lot of oil out there in the world, but it is just about how easy and practical and financially viable it is to get hold of this stuff. Silver is in the same category there. It's just about Right now, it's a byproduct of various different mines. There could well be silver geodes and silver nodes that we have not tapped yet, which are just a little bit more difficult to get hold of. New mining techniques, new mining technology might come in. At the moment, we have only a certain depth that we can access with mining technology. Perhaps there will be more mining technology that comes along in the future that will allow us to go further and deeper. Ultimately, silver is not an uncommon, so it's not a rare metal by any stretch, and there is an awful lot of it out there. So where does this leave us going forward? I think it's very important to recognize that there is a lot of potential hype out there, and one of the reasons I'm making this video is because you do see a lot of people go, oh my god, silver is in short supply, there is going to be a complete run on silver. Did I see a little rim ding on this coin? I did, look. Where did it go? We'll just rotate it around. I think it's just about here. Sorry, I get distracted easily. There it is. So there is this hype train that there is a lot of silver shortage out there and that people should buy as much of it as possible because it's going to run out. Just remember that silver is something that is readily available. All you've got to do right now is look on all of the different bullion dealers' websites. They have it in their droves. They have ounces upon ounces upon ounces. And the notion is, continuing on from this hype, that one can squeeze the market, or collectively everybody together can squeeze the market by buying as much silver as possible. And the notion that a small number of people can actually have that effect on a global market where billions of ounces of silver are produced every decade and consumed by industry alike is just a little bit far-fetched for my take. One thing that I will part with you on this video with is that I feel that silver has got a lot of potential for the future as an industrial metal. Traditionally, of course, throughout history, it was used as a monetary metal, and there is a big walk away from that right now. Gold is very much still this monetary metal. It's the money of countries. It's the currency of countries. It's the thing that countries would covet more than silver if they had the choice. But of course, a lot of different countries out there can't necessarily afford the gold, so the silver is the way forward. But ultimately, we are moving away from our cultural history of silver bullion as that form of money, and it's very much turning into this industrial metal, and that is where silver's growth will be over time. In what time frame that is going to be is anybody's guess, and it could very well be that in 500 years we are still talking about silver being a very short supplied metal, but really it might not be. You know, who knows what is ahead. There also could be other metals out there that have this huge change in industrial purpose that could replace silver. Who knows? If copper, for example. Now, actually, that's one thing I haven't talked about. Copper is very important because silver is often a byproduct of copper mining. And copper is also an incredibly good conductor of electricity. In fact, of course, we all know that because it's in wiring of everything. Now, silver is even better, but of course, silver is a lot more expensive. And as the prices of silver perhaps go up and up and up, copper might just become this new metal of choice for the vast majority of industries because silver becomes unobtainium, perhaps. So who knows? That could drive the price down. The one thing that we need to take away, I think, from this video, though, is that the idea that there is a shortage of silver is not real in my mind. I can't see that being a real thing right now in this world. And when you see different mints struggling to produce large quantities of items, it's simply because there are supply chain issues. Supply chain issues are the thing that is the most important factor. You just got to look, for example, at lumber. Lumber is the last point that I'll make here. Everybody is saying the tripled in lumber prices, the quadrupling of lumber prices is an indication that the dollar is failing. It's not. The trees are still there. The trees were planted 30, 40 years ago that were going to be chopped down and made into lumber this particular year. But because of the pandemic, they've not been able to chop as many down and produce as many products in their factories. So it is about supply chains. It's not about a shortage of the particular item. And that is what we need to factor in. When we start hearing headlines and fanciful wills that this stuff is rare and it is running out. It's not the case, in my opinion. But I'd love to know what your opinion is, so please feel free to comment down below with that thought and opinion. All I ask is that you comment respectfully. If you're just going to be an obtuse troll, you can get a one-way ticket to Banville. Otherwise, We'll see you down there for a fun and healthy debate. If you enjoyed this video and presentation, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button. And if you aren't subscribed, like nearly 70% of all views on this channel are, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, because if you have enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll enjoy some of the content we make in the future. Otherwise, that is it from me today. A big thank you to you all for watching. We'll see you on the next one. And as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.